Habari kwa utendeti zimeletwa kwako kwa hisani ya Mtaani Radio.
Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Okisegere Ojibat, CEO of Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya, an association that brings together actors in the fresh produce industry right from the farm through to the market.
Okay, talk to us about one of the big four agendas for the government was on food security. What is your take on how the government has done so far?
My view is, one, it's a good thing that government looked at food security in terms of itemizing it and putting it in a priority list. In terms of implementation, we're still quite far away because of the capacity in terms of resources allocated and the way it has been approached. It is still not very well coordinated, and we're not going to achieve food security any day soon. We still have a lot that we need to do, particularly at the county level. The coordination between the national county level and the private sector is still very loose, and therefore there's need for us to relook at the approaches. Different counties will have different approaches. Different actors are not well coordinated, so the coordination mechanism needs to improve for us to be able to achieve that.
Talking about the coordination mechanism, what is the role of the local in ensuring there's food security? What can they do to actively participate?
Food is not something that you want to gamble. Food is something that we have to live with. By the end of the day, everybody must eat. And that means we need to give it, one, we need to give it seriousness it requires. We need to look at how many are we? How much food do we really require in the country? How much do we have? What is the deficit? And how do we quickly fix the deficit? It's upon all of us as citizens of this country to be able to look at where am I getting my food and where are the production sites. We need to look at who are the growers. We need to know where are they, what support do they require, what capacity they have, and who is a farmer in the first place, who is going to be involved, so that we all don't look like we are farmers and yet we actually in towns in the name of farmers and sending money up country, thinking that our farm managers or farm attendants end up being farmers. That approach must change. We also need to look at how much land is available with the men and women who are sitting in urban centers and yet they have land in their homes. Can they release that land either to government or to private sector practitioners so that the private sector practitioners then can go into it and do farming? Then on the other side, it's important that incentives are given to those who are doing growing by the government in terms of tax rebates, in terms of market access, and in terms of market intelligence. What do we require, when, and that market information is key. Because at the moment, an example is we're having maize in Rift Valley as we talk now, and they're harvesting. But you hear complaints that the government is not giving them either market, neither have they been told what to do. So many of them are holding, thinking Cereal Board is going to buy maize. Cereal Board is only one of the markets, but the main market should not be Cereal Board. We should be able to have segmented markets so that that produce gets out there, and that gives a motivation to the growers to be able to get into farming productions.
Okay, when we talk about production, one thing that threatens food security is when the farm is infected by pests. And we saw that in 2017 where there was the armyworm. So how best can farmers use pesticides to actually safeguard their crops?
Nice that you mentioned the issue of pesticides. Number one, before I mention about pesticide, we must look at farming is an art and a science at the same time. So it starts with the selection of the right seeds, the right practices that you have to do. And as you have done your proper seed selection, you've done the practices in terms of the agronomical practices. When it comes to pesticides, I'm happy that you brought it up because pesticides are one of those things that are being negatively publicized at the moment. And yet pesticides are used first in the farm as a herbicide for weed control. An example is people who are doing wheat and maize in Rift Valley, in North Rift, Bungoma. The people have large tracts of land. It's not possible for them to go in with a djembe to literally be able to prepare the land and weed. So it's important that they use herbicide to control weeds. So that's the first encounter between the growers and pesticides. Now, the worst of all is that today we're talking about pesticides causing cancer, which is not right. Pesticides do not cause cancer. Cancer can be caused by anything based on how you manage your body. And therefore, when it comes to pesticide, what we insist is that can everyone who is involved in handling pesticide follow the instructions? Every pesticide has very clear instructions on the label, and where you're not sure, we have insisted that it's important that one seeks clarity before they start using. An example is that pesticides have a label which sets, one, the date of manufacture, the mode of action. That pesticide is for control of which pest or which disease, when it should be applied, how it should be applied, how it should be even mixed, and then what protective clothes you need to put on, how do you store, and how do you dispose of any remains, or how do you dispose of the empty containers after use. And lastly, it has even given a first aid procedure. In an event where there is a bit of an abuse, there is a way you have been given procedures to administer first aid so that the level of exposure and the dangers that any user uses is clearly stated. So I am here to strongly advocate safe and responsible use of pesticide along the value chain.
Okay. I wouldn't know the right word to use, but are they pesticides still? But what is normally used to maybe prolong the lifespan of the cereals after they have been harvested?
We do not prolong the lifestyle, but what we do is you're basically looking at post-harvest management.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're looking at post-harvest management, there are two methods.
Okay.
One, the most common pesticide, let me use the most common preservative that's used, or the product used after harvest, after drying well, is, for example, actelic. When you're using that powder, there is a way there's a measure that you need to use. And this is not dangerous to a human, and that's why you are told to use and use right. Number one, you must dry your maize to acceptable dry content. Once you have dried your maize well, you then mix based on the rate, and you store. But we also have the other side on the pest control, where we now have the airtight bags that are being used. So instead of using a pest control product, you then use bags. But this is a new technology that has just come in. So for the majority of growers, what they are now using is that they have a dust that they use after that. So the critical thing is the dry content, the moisture dry content, and the good rate that you use. If you underuse it, there's a possibility that product will not use. And if you overdo it, then you're harming yourself, and you also, of course, you're wasting, which is not the best thing to do.
Okay. Does that give the impression that either overusing the pesticides during the growing process or after, during the preservation process, is the main factor that is leading to aflatoxin in maize and other cereals?
No. Aflatoxin in maize is a post-harvest challenge.
Okay.
For your information, every cereal, be it wheat, be it maize, be it rice, has some levels of aflatoxin.
Okay.
The difference is the level. Is it within the acceptable range, or is it beyond? And how do you control aflatoxin? You control aflatoxin from just before you harvest, and mostly the challenge of aflatoxin is a post-harvest management. If you harvest maize, like now it's largely wet across the country, and you do not have sufficient facility to dry the cereals, what will happen? There's a possibility that you will get that maize or the cereals in the store when the moisture content is high, and the fluctuation of that moisture content then is what causes aflatoxin. And that's why for long, a lot of challenges on aflatoxin was in the lower eastern, where traditionally they are not cereal growers. And it then posed a challenge on how do they dry their cereals when they have got bumper harvest, and they have no facilities. And North Rift in Western region, where traditionally people have been growing maize, their aflatoxin rates were not as high because that is what they do every time, and they have prepared facilities for storage and for drying maize. So the aflatoxin issue should not be should not be demonized or misunderstood. Aflatoxin is purely a post-harvest management challenge that we are facing as a country and as a people that we need to address. So just be very clear. When you have harvested, how do I dry them? What do I have? What is the process so that we are able to manage? And it's consignment by consignment, by the way. If you got a consignment from a grower in Rift Valley, and you got another consignment from a grower in Upper Eastern or Lower Eastern, there are possibilities that the aflatoxin contents are different, or from farm to farm, because it's purely how you have managed your processes. So let's not demonize it, but let's understand what are the causes of aflatoxin and how we manage our processes after harvest.
That means farmers need to be educated on how to dry their maize, how to dry their cereals effectively.
Absolutely. It's not just drying, it's how do you harvest, how do you transport it to the drying point, how do you, even after drying, how do you manage the drying, the storage process? Because even if you dried very well and you stored in a moist store, what will happen? You still have issues of aflatoxin, because about moisture content. How do you manage the moisture content from the time you plug off the cob from the stock, the cob from the stock? How do you manage that process? That's the most critical point of it, until it is either with a processor who is going to it's either with a miller, or it's either with you on your table, based on what cereal and what method you want to use. You are going to do flour, or are you going to prepare straight your githeri and the rest of the meals that you eat?
So there's no worry, there's no reason for concern for Kenyans to worry about aflatoxin, because just the other day there was news that our maize, our flour has excess contents of aflatoxin.
My personal individual independent judgment is, let's not demonize institutions. Aflatoxin is consignment by consignment.
Okay.
The same factory that will have received a consignment from supplier A will process that consignment. But when he gets or she gets, or the institution gets the next consignment will be clean. So it depends on, let's look at how do we manage our post-harvest processes and not demonize the institutions. Because in this country, I think we're used to demonizing everything. What is important here is that at the point of approval, that consignment, let's look at consignment by consignment, but not looking at demonizing and condemning people. Because if you give me maize from Bungoma today, and tomorrow I got maize from Eldoret, the next day I got maize from Kitale, the next day I got maize from Meru, does that mean that all those consignments are bad? Or even got maize from South Africa or Malawi, or import them from a different destination, or Uganda? Those consignments will come differently. So other than condemning the system, let's look at what systems have we put in place to ensure that we check before we admit, and the process of checking should be fair and sound and robust, so that we are accountable, and there's a traceability system put in place so that you're able to, in case of a challenge, you can quickly go to that specific batch, and that will be able to sort it out. What is your role as a consumer? When you're going to buy, have you ever asked any question? A time has come where consumers must start holding accountable the people and their processes.
Okay.
Because in this country, we have consumers who go to the kiosk and buy githeri. They'll go to the kiosk and tell them, chop for me the sukuma wiki. And they go away, place an order. When they come back, they have a chopped sukuma wiki. They have no clue where it came from. When they have a problem, they say somebody slept on the job. So by the time you're eating and this is coming to your system, do you care what you eat? So the issue of saying that aflatoxin causes cancer, I still want to say, listen, cancer is not caused by one thing. Let me ask, the cancer of the cervix, where is aflatoxin coming from? cancer of different, there are different cancers in different parts of the body. And each cancer has its own. So when you say that you have maize causes aflatoxin, the aflatoxin causes cancer. Where did the cancer of the cervix come from?
But I think that would be an unfair question, asking Kenyans to actually question where the food is coming from. Because, for example, if I buy my sukuma wiki, my maize from the market, even if I ask the person who's selling to me where they got it from, how do I know whatever they're telling me is true? Because I can't follow it up until the point where they actually buy and then come and sell it to me.
Listen, the reason why we're having issues of food safety in this country is because the consumers have become irresponsible.
And how do they become responsible?
The consumers become responsible by asking questions. When you ask questions, what is the source of this vegetable that I'm eating? The vendor next time will ask the supplier, by the way, where did you get your supplies from? And we must then be able to look at the accountability. And accountability is not from a farmer. Accountability should be back and forth. You should be able to account. For example, the way I will want consumers to do is to be able to account one step forward and one step backward. I bought it from Wanjiku. I sold it to John. So I am able to tell one step back and one step forward. Wanjiku should be able to account one step backwards, one step forward. Once we demand, the reason why Europe, for example, is very good at food safety is because the consumers do not want to eat anything. The consumers are saying, give me an accountability of this product. Look at the supermarket. There is even a barcode, right? That barcode should be able to capture where the product came from. When the consumer in this country starts asking those questions, the production systems will be able to respond, and each one of us will then start documenting. We are lazy in this country in documentation. As much as we have systems, we don't follow them. So I want to emphasize that consumers, you and I, should be able to hold accountable the person who gives us food. If you go to a restaurant, if you go to a hotel, if you go to a supermarket, if you walk around, I see people buying maize along the way. You should be able to ask that guy, Mahindi ulitoa wapi? Where did you get this maize from? That will be able to help this country to start appreciating a lot of work that's going on.
Change starts with you and I. I believe you've walked around, you've seen the goats, they eat around, they eat plastic. So how does that affect the human? And number two, there was the conversation about sukuma wiki being grown with sewage water. How bad is that?
I can't say worse than that. Two things happen. As I said, responsibility starts with you and I. Number one, at what point did we allow goats to loiter and walk along the roadsides and start picking things? Who is the owner of that animal?
Unfortunately, they're already there.
We must hold the owner of that goat accountable. If not, government should get those goats and confine them somewhere. When the owner comes, then they should be asked to account why they're letting this happen. So on that one, I blame enforcers, both at the county and the national level, because animals should not be allowed to be roaming around. That's one. In terms of sukuma wiki and being grown on sewage, that's also a concern that rests on government, particularly because they have the law and they have the enforcement. What is happening in this country is we have slept on the job, number one. Two, we're just lazy. Number three, we just care anymore. Because if we cared about your neighbor, you will not grow food in the sewage and sold to your neighbor when you know it comes from the sewage. So this, for me, I call it carelessness. But on the other side, it's just about the poverty levels. There are some people in this country whose business is not looking at food safety. It's food availability. And they may not be able to avail food. Genuinely, they don't even know what's the next meal. So when they see food, they will first of all rush to ensure that they have availability. Then the safety component, if it will come later. So let's manage it area by area. But the best way will be that ensure, for example, in Nairobi, get the county government to just ensure that nobody just grows anything anywhere. And just ask them to be accountable before they grow. And if they have to grow, then let's get the experts, help them on what they need to do. And let's look at analysis. Let's get to know what's happening. If not, go to a Wakulima market, for example. Sometimes food comes from outside, very good. But how do we handle it in the marketplace? Dumped on the floor?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's contaminated. So are you going to blame the farmer from Kinangop who supplied sukuma wiki to Nairobi or cabbage? No. You blame the transportation and the handling bit of it at the marketplace. So it's a mixed reaction. It's an unfortunate situation that we actually unsafe and we're not able to account for it.
And lastly, your parting shot when it comes to food security.
I have two things I want to say. Number one, let me emphasize on the issue of responsible use of pesticides. That plant protection products, what you will call pesticide, contribute to 40% success of our food security. If we stop using the plant protection products, as people allege, we will lose 40% of our production in a country that, first of all, is not food secure. So I emphasize that we need to work together, ensure responsible use of pesticides, which is plant protection products, and let's use the plant protection products for the intended purpose, and let's follow instruction. And then we will start looking at production systems that ensure we increase productivity from one unit area, from the current 10 bags, 20 bags per unit area, to double that. And that means that we must be able to embrace technology. We must be able to accept the new seed varieties. We must be able to encourage researchers to research more, better, high-yielding varieties that will be able to ensure that we get more from a unit area. Because our population is constantly growing, and the arable land for us to use for production is steadily going down. One, because of subdivision, new development in terms of real estate and housing that is threatening the arable land, and we have infrastructure that is coming up. So we must then be able to quickly say, where does technology come in to help us meet the gaps that we have?
Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
99.9 Mtaani Radio, sauti ya mtaa.
Mtaani Radio, sauti ya mtaa.